as we get into the program this evening, if you are viewing us, you can also see this program. If you don't have particular platforms, you can log on to the Tobago Updates website. You can log into the Tobago Updates YouTube channel, or you can log on to Facebook. Many of you are very familiar and it's easy to navigate through the Facebook page, the Tobago Updates Facebook page. And I mean, the benefit with that is you're able to also communicate with us on the live chat. So be open, be fair with your comments, but we want to hear from you. We want to dialogue. So be respectful as well for others who are commenting. This is a family program. A number of young people also look at the program, so we always want to be able to provide that example. If you are, however, an AMPLIA subscriber, I have very, very good news for you. If you turn your television to channel 102, yes, that's 102, you can, in the comfort of your living room, view this particular program. And I mean, really just take it in, share it with your family, call your neighbors over, call a couple of friends, pop some corn, cook a meal, and sit. Now, for those of you who may have been feeling like you are a bit left out because you are not subscribed to AMPLIA, there's also good news for you. If you are a Flow subscriber, the Tobago Updates Network is also available now on Flow, and you can watch the Minority Report on Flow Channel 121 Hub TV or Channel 130 AVS. Let me repeat that. On Flow, if you are a Flow subscriber, you can view the programming, the Minority Report, on Flow Channel 121, and that is Hub TV, HUB TV, or Channel 130 AVS. You may also have information, and this is something that I want to say thank you for those of you who have been consistently sharing information with us, who've been consistently bringing photos, documents, as we call it, whistleblowers, and you are providing us with valid and pertinent information, documentation on many occasions, and video or picture footage to be able to support a number of the arguments that we present here. I want to say thank you for doing that. If you are willing to do so and assist as well, you can send anything you have via WhatsApp to 284-6597. That's 284-6597. And we will get the information. We'll be able to analyze it, assess it, and you definitely would have your concerns aired. We're going to call the respective individuals to account, and we're going to definitely provide you with that level of ventilation in a space that you may not be able to let your voice be heard. So folks, I want to encourage you to get as much as possible from this particular program as we go right into our program this evening, because we don't want to run out of time tonight. I want to introduce my guest in studio with me, the minority leader himself, Assemblyman Kelvon Morris. How are you this evening, sir?
I am quite good. Good evening, Marlon, and let me say a special good evening to all our viewers, listeners, well-wishers, both here in Tobago and elsewhere. Good evening.
Minority leader, we have so much on the program this evening to really discuss. However, before we get into the meat of the program, we had a third murder in Tobago today. and this, I know last week, I mean, this comes on the heels of last week. You had a very, very productive meeting with the commissioner and his team, the acting commissioner and his team, and a number of discussions ensued. Yet still, we're seeing something that took place today. We need to begin to talk one-on-one with our young people. If you would have heard the account one of the young men who was at the beach gave, he said these young fellas,
4 young men.
Yeah, just ran past them, looked at them, and ran to the van. We need to call our young people to keep them accountable.
Well, this is on the heels of Tobago experiencing its bloodiest year in the history of Tobago. And, one of the things in the meeting with the commissioner, we did commend the police for the work that they have been doing. We did see some level of suppression, especially of murders. And, you have to commend the police for their efforts. But what this suggests to me, especially the fact that so many young people are getting involved in criminality in Tobago, it suggests that there's an underlying social issue that is plaguing the island, and we cannot bury our heads in the sand, and it requires serious intervention, as you say. Of course, the mentorship, the guidance, family life, the community, and whereas the Tobago House of Assembly also has an important role to play. The fact that a number of young men continue to find the time and find the criminality as a way of life means that, even when it comes to opportunities, and when you listen, when you sit down and chat with young men, if you're to go around the communities, one of the main things they are saying to you as a representative and as a Tobagonian, anybody, if you chat with young people, they're saying it's very difficult to get a job. I want to work, but it seems like there's no jobs available. And it is quite unfortunate that this is where we are at in Tobago. And, it is important that, all hands are on deck. I tend to say crime is one of those things I tend not to want to politicize, but at the same time, we must admit and we must accept that the Tobago House of Assembly does have a role to play, be it education, be it youth affairs and sport, where you're having the youth programs, community development, what is happening in the communities. What is happening at the level of youth work. I remember there was a time you used to have youth auxiliaries spread throughout Tobago, interacting with youth groups and young people and ensuring you have them engaged. What is happening there? Community development and sport. When you look at the playing fields, most of the playing fields are either not fit for purpose or not fit for use. So take, for example, Goodwood. That Goodwood facility that is a community without a facility for the last 3 to 4 years, shut down in 2021 when this administration came in. And the young fellas in Goodwood have not been able to have a space to recreate. And you know what is the alternative? Take a drive up in Goodwood. And you would see young fellas further up the road.
That's on the block.
And doing things that perhaps they could have done more positive things being on the field. And there's something we'll come to. Because I've always said, you see, there is a correlation to lack of facilities, community facilities, and recreation, and the level of criminality that exists within that space. Take, for example, Golden Lane. Golden Lane is one of those areas without direct community facility. They don't have a playing field. I don't think they have an active court or anything like that. And if you look based on the crime and the criminal statistics,
very high.
Golden Lane is one of those areas that is identified as a hotspot.
Correct.
I recall in WIM, there was a time WIM was identified as a hotspot, but thankfully we had a visionary representative in Assemblyman Claudia Duke, and she came from a background of social welfare, social services. She was a social welfare officer. And, there's a natural inclination to really be drawn to young people. And rather than give up on the youth of women at that time, Mrs. Duke felt that if we were able to get in the community and provide some level of facility, recreational facility and training opportunities right in the heart of the village, that would make an impact. And I live to see where we, through Miss Duke, we were able to find a space, and thankfully today, just yesterday, the community of WIM can finally breathe a sigh of relief that once and for all, that WIM sporting facility was delivered, handed over from the project manager, Udicott, to the Division of Education, the client, on behalf of the people of WIM and environs. And that yesterday, I said to myself, both Miss Duke and deceased Miss Melva Jofield said, if heaven really has the angels and Miss Melva Jofield being there, I know heaven, she was smiling down from heaven yesterday in real appreciation for seeing that day finally coming to fruition.
Very, very, very. And minority leader is important. And you touched on something there that is I don't know how much of Tobago has paid attention to it in terms of the role of the Division of Community Development and Sport in bringing to bear programs. And to me, we've seen that particular division literally go dormant.
That division has been misdirected.
Yes.
There's no clear vision. There's no clear plan. And it appears to me that everything is being done ad hoc. If you talk to the SBOs, the sporting organizations, they would tell you that it's very difficult to get support for their programs.
Correct.
Whether it be football, cricket, etc., basketball, etc., etc. As we speak, all the Tobago Football Association games, as far as I know, are being played at one venue, which is the Call and Recreation Ground. All the other venues are either unavailable or not properly maintained. So it means that I am seeing Charlottesville imagine Charlottesville is playing Speyside, and those games are being, not Speyside, sorry. I think it was either Castara playing Speyside, but that game is being played
down in
Corlan. So the teams from the east have to come all the way down to the west to play a football game. Just because the chief secretary who is from the east, the deputy chief secretary who is from the east,
both of them,
they have abandoned the people of the east, abandoned the Goodwood field, which was one of the main fields used up there. Of course, well, we know they've completely made a mess of Speyside.
Yeah, that's
right in games used to play right in Speyside. I remember playing games right up in Charlottesville.
Yeah.
On the north side, you have the Moriah North Side field there, and all those fields now are poorly maintained by this THA. And you wonder, where are we going with sport in Tobago?
Yeah.
When the very basic, when the very essential things, such as the facilities, so that people can train and then people can play, aren't being properly maintained.
No, and the funny thing is, that division moved from under the plaster, where he was fighting the now member of Parliament for Tobago West and candidate for Tobago West in the upcoming general elections, fought over a key to debar the people of Tobago from skills training, which is what community development is designed for.
Correct.
And then we went forward now, and nothing has been happening.
And, you know, I really want to go back to this point about the neglect of the people from the East, because I'm sure when the people of the East voted for a chief secretary from the East, they expected that whatever they were getting were going to improve and going to be even better. And I am sure if people from the East, if they are being very honest, if they do the comparison pre-2021, before this administration, compared to now, whether it be sport, whether it be education, whether it be the roads, whether it be transportation,
agriculture,
I am sure, if they are being honest tonight, that
chalk and cheese.
it is when compared the PNM prior to 2021 now to this administration post 2021, I'm sure they will admit life was better under the PNM. And therefore, we now have an opportunity to resoundingly make that statement that life was better under the PNM come the 28th, because you have a choice of persons who represent the current administration and persons who you know are from the PNM. You've seen what the PNM have done for you, made a deliberate effort to bring the East up with the rest of Tobago.
Yes.
Whether it be the West have a hospital, the PNM ensured the East also have a hospital.
Correct.
The West have playing facilities, recreational facilities. PNM ensured that we upgraded the Sidgray Stadium. Made sure we lit the playing fields up at Speyside and Charlottesville, etc. When it comes to construction of community centers, no other part of the island would have seen such a construction, booming in community centers as the East under the PNM. And I want to ask the people of the East, under this administration, how many community centers have they built? Think about it. The PNM would have built
one.
I could start from, imagine they had one to fit, that was
finish.
already shovel ready in Charlottesville.
Yeah.
And to this date, it remains just as
still shovel ready.
Just shovel ready. So I think the choice is absolutely clear and very easy. Come the 28th, when it comes to who would have had the back of the people of Tobago East. And if people are being very honest, they would know that the PNM would have made deliberate efforts to improve the lives, the livelihood, and the infrastructure of the people of Tobago East like no other.
Correct. Correct. And that minority leader is, as we say in church, the gospel truth. And speaking about improving the lives of Tobagonians and all of Tobago, it's always good for us to be able to get consensus on things. It's important for persons to recognize that this is not a situation where we come here on a Tuesday and simply pull issues out of the air and try to ventilate them. So very interestingly, this evening, I heard a report and I mean, it blew me away because it validated a number of the things that we've been saying here. And this Tobago CivilNet Society would have conducted a recent survey in their quest as a neutral entity to identify what persons have been saying about this THA administration. This same THA administration who is now coming to Tobagonians again to say, endorse them for a higher level of function where they have failed miserably at the level that they are at. And I want the director to just run that particular clip with the Tobago CivilNet news story and the results of their particular survey. Mr. Director.
The annual survey of Tobago performance has revealed a mix of pride and concern among residents. Conducted from January 8th to February 15th, 2025 by Tobago CivilNet, the Tobago Council of Elders and the Tobago Youth Council, the survey gathered feedback from 410 participants across all 15 districts, marking the highest participation to date. While 34.9% of respondents rated their quality of life as good or excellent, 22.2% described it as poor or very poor. Job opportunities emerged as the top issue, with 71% expressing dissatisfaction. The Tobago House of Assembly also faced declining approval, with only 14.6% rating in its performance positively, down from 26% in the previous survey. Youth respondents voiced strong frustration over job prospects and a lack of engagement in governance, emphasizing the need for better opportunities and public participation in Tobago's development.
So there you have it, and this is the first time I've ever seen this report, and without that survey speaks conclusively to the point I was making about, because when you go out, and I think I'm just responding to one of our persons on the chat who was saying, you know, that of course job opportunity or lack thereof is not the only thing that would cause people to move towards a life of crime. Yes, it is a choice, but in Tobago, that situation of a lack of job opportunities is a fact.
Yeah.
It is real, and it is something affecting youth among Tobago, and it played out in that survey. So what I am hearing and what the people are saying to me on the ground is exactly what would have been reported in that survey, that this administration has made it very difficult because not only are they not able to create meaningful jobs, but they have also fired. We have to remember that hundreds of Tobagonians.
Yes.
That was one of the first things they did when they came into office. And you know what is the irony of that? The person who led the firing of young Tobagonians is a senior citizen. And yet this senior citizen, where the administration, where we have the chief secretary on record as saying, describing senior citizen in the worst way. This senior citizen was there sending home young people, while they removed the senior citizen as a member of the assembly executive, they brought her back, paying her $28,000.
Lavish salary.
While young people at home can't even get a little work to feed their children.
How much you paying her?
$28,000.
Tobago to hear that.
So you see and this is why
Senior
young
citizen.
people are frustrated, because you have a senior citizen who would have come in and done that wicked act to Tobagonians. Hundreds of people, and a lot of them were women, single mothers. And the reward for that wicked, dastardly act is to give them, after you found them unfit to be in the administration, you brought them back and gave them a consultancy work for over $28,000. While you have many young people, well qualified, whom can't even get as much as a 10 on 10 off.
And this is the performance this administration talk
this
about.
is the performance. So therefore, I am not surprised that more and more Tobagonians are coming to the conclusion that this administration is an absolute failure, the worst administration in the history of Tobago. And Fali Chavez Augustine is going to go down as the worst chief secretary in the history, because he cannot match up to Orville London, who was the best. He cannot match up to Hochoy Charles. He cannot match up to Jeff Davidson.
Nobody.
He cannot match up to A.N.R. Robinson. And of course, he cannot match up to Kelvin Charles nor Ansel Dennis. So he will go down as the worst chief secretary when it's all said and done. Because every year, when you look at that survey, year on year, this is their fourth survey.
Fourth.
It's at 22, 2023, 2024. Yeah, so this is the third. And every year, their performance has declined. You would think that they would get better over time. And what this is showing is that they are getting worse and worse and worse. And Tobagonians are feeling more and more and more pain under this administration. Young people especially. Young people have become so disillusioned that they don't even want to hear about politics, because they would have promised and presented a sense of hope to young people. And young people rallied around them because they felt they look like us. They identified with them. And
Abject failures.
After 3 years They have failed to live up to those dreams and promises and hopes and aspirations that the young people felt they would have achieved under them.
And Minority Leader, what is even, more shocking in this entire thing? They're moving around as normal, if they don't even care about Tobago.
The thing about it, and that's why young people are getting so disillusioned and feel like because they are seeing them living good.
Lavish lives.
Lavishly. They are moving around people who perhaps before couldn't even buy a doubles properly. They are now living, think about it. I saw recently, and I saw recently where an assistant secretary, along with her executive officer, is the first time I'm seeing an executive officer going on a travel. During the PNM thing, those things were unheard of. I served as an executive officer, and the furthest I would have reached is to facilitate ensuring that my secretary got to Piaco safely.
Yes, safely.
And that was as far as I would have reached. Make sure you do the logistics make sure they're on the plane, and that is as my job ended. Now, this administration who is telling Tobagonians they don't have money, carrying executive assistant to executive assistant.
Photographers.
So they left and went on this. So they left and went on something called this poverty conference.
Yes.
But you would think that the poverty conference coming from an organization or some national or UN body, when you do the research on the organization, this organization is really like a paper organization. So there's no ministerial kind of connection there. It's not like you're seeing other ministers. There's no official. But yet somebody Googled, saw this poverty eradication conference, provided this as an opportunity to travel, and they went on a 10-day.
Hundreds of thousands.
Where that trip, and I want Tobagonians to understand that trip, for the 3 persons who went to that trip, Tobagonians, that poverty eradication trip, that could have fed 100 families. $150,000. Think about it. $150,000 you would have paid to send 3 people on a conference to an organization that has no international standing and brings no direct benefit to you, the people of Tobago.
And they left and returned without saying anything.
They left without telling you.
No report when they come back.
They returned without telling you, and there's absolutely no benefit to be had from it except that they collected per diem, they got their passports stamped, and the mothers and the fathers and the families who are going for food cards are still waiting on the food cards.
Yes.
So they went with 150,000, but you are left home hungry. And this is why, so their priority is about them. And this is why I keep saying to Tobagonians, I don't know about anybody else, but my mantra for this period, and all of Tobago should adopt it. They said they would fix it. They did not fix it. So at every opportunity we now have, let we fix them.
Correct.
Let we fix them. And we all, when they come to your doors, Tobagonians, remember they do so?
Yes.
Well, I want you to say, let we fix them. When they come to your doors, let we fix them. Because they've been fixing themselves.
They've been flying
20, you telling me in 3 years, $25 million and running in travel? You have a secretary who has absolutely no claim to fame, no achievement, other than she is the most traveled tourism secretary in the history of Tobago.
Correct.
The most
Correct.
traveled with the least results. I remember when Neil Wilson went out, you would hear an announcement.
Soon
we
after.
have Monarch flight coming.
Correct.
This flight coming. This hotel coming. That was the record of Neil Wilson. Under Oswald Williams, same thing. We bring in this cruise ship.
Then he fit.
Tracy Davidson, Celestine, the same
thing.
Under this secretary, where is the announcement? Where have you heard us said? After I went to ITB for 3 years, I went to World Travel Market for 3 years. Where have you heard her ever come back and say, I was able to ink this deal on behalf of the people of Tobago?
Nothing.
There's none. Failure.
And ML, we tie the chief secretary now, who seems to have been defending and still defending this secretary. He failed. She failing. He is the same person who said to us last year, by July, we have a new flight coming. In defense of this same secretary.
And this chief secretary is a man you just can't take his, not just failure, but is a gentleman. You just cannot take his word.
Never.
Because we were told, Tobagonians, last year, June, in the budget.
Yes.
He said as early as July, he has negotiated, and we will see an airline coming in, an international airline coming into this space. And we are about to approach June again. And
Probably
up to this day, we are waiting on this airline. This airline, like it,
not even a name.
There's not even a name. Not even. Where's the airline, Mr. Chief Secretary? You would recall the Chief Secretary went to England, where he sponsored an event so that he could speak. I think he spent millions on that event.
Yeah.
Right? And we were told he had about 5 to 15 investors. Tobagonians, have you heard or seen the Chief Secretary brought one investor or announced one investment since then? So this is a man you just cannot take his word. And I don't know who will continue to run blindly behind someone that would tell you A is A, and when you look, A really is B, because you just cannot take his word. Nothing he tells you is what it is.
Nothing
he says is what it is. He told us about a zip line, waved a brown envelope. Waved the brown envelope. By the time that matter reached the court, the judges threw out that issue, saying that those information you brought there are frivolous, superfluous, vacuous, and a fiction of your imagination.
Correct.
That is the ruling in the court.
And not once, not twice.
But we were also told came into the house with a half-baked, incomplete audit and made all kind of accusations, castigating the credibility of Tobago contractors, imputing all kind of improper motives about them in the house. When one of the contractors took them to court for his money, and the judge looked at the information as provided, again, the judge is on record as saying the evidence is fictitious. So I want to know, Tobagonians, how could you trust
this man,
somebody like that? It's not one time. It's not 2 times. It's not 3 times. This is he has a track record, a pattern of misleading you.
Psychotic behavior. That is a complex, and he's not stopping. And minority leader. I want us to go to a clip that shows you why you cannot trust them, because one day he would say A to please you here today, and tomorrow he will turn around and say something completely opposite. We have a few of those, Mr. Director. Run this first one.
Contractors are calling and complaining that they are not being paid for works done. And I want to assure you contractors that when PDP gets into office, we will honor contracts that you have with the THA, and we will pay you for the jobs that you have done, that you have dutifully done, even if we do not agree with the way those contracts were given out. You have done the jobs, we will pay you for the jobs that you have done.
Christopher Columbus.
Sometimes people may feel, but this is not Kelvin saying this.
No.
This is a commitment given by someone who was vying to be chief secretary and saying, once I get in the seat, this is my commitment to you. And when he actually got in the seat, turned around and did the opposite to what he committed.
Correct.
Because he heard. He said, it doesn't matter how you get it, we don't care about that part of it. But we will pay you for the... Up to this point, these contractors,
Courtroom.
4 years later,
Some of them still.
The majority of these contractors remain unpaid.
Yeah.
After you hear for yourself, this is not
And
me
that is
making it up.
that makes what he said a blatant lie.
But it speaks to the
Character. Yeah.
of the individual. Because if you give a commitment, it means that you are giving
And
your
it's on
word.
record.
It means that you're giving your word. And if you give your word, then somebody of good character will keep their word.
All right.
A man who does not keep his word is a man that you are not to trust. You are not to trust somebody like that, because if in one breath you would say something and in the next breath turn around and do the opposite, you are a dangerous person.
Now, ML, it didn't stop there. We know how the build-up to the Sandals project took place, and we want to be good to understand something. This chief secretary, this failed chief secretary, continues to lie blatantly. He don't even shame about it again. He just keep lying. I want to run the first clip, Mr. Director, of Fali's stance. Let's run that clip.
And Tobagonians must get ready to stand up, go down by no man's land, go down by that estate, and stand against Sandals.
Wow.
Hey.
No, some days you just feel like because you understand.
Lord.
And just the other day, he was on record as saying nobody was against Sandals.
He said it.
Tobago, this is almost unbelievable. This cannot be normal behavior, human behavior. And
oh my Lord.
I really hope people pay attention, because sometimes we get so carried away in the personality.
Yeah.
But not really taking an appreciation for the substance of what is being provided.
Correct.
And all we are demonstrating here is that the man that comes to you all spewing very niceties, painted pump, flowery words,
cannot be trusted.
he's a populist. He would tell you what you want to hear. And sometimes those kind of people are very dangerous, because they would say all the nice things
in front of you,
and then you might get carried away with it. But the substance of who they really are and what they mean is completely different.
Correct.
Because look at that. For the situation, when it was convenient,
He wanted power.
when it was convenient, and when rejecting Sandals was a popular thing to say, you heard him there telling Tobagonians, inciting Tobagonians, riling up Tobagonians to reject Sandals. Now,
you want to hear what you say next?
No, I want we listen to the. So
Mr.
that was
Director,
Fali then.
That was Fali then.
Listen to
Small
Fali.
liar. Next clip.
Now, Tobago is a small space with limited land resources and with limited number of people. We only have about 65,000 people within 116 square miles. And so we can not exhaust our land space with large-scale hotels. What will work best is if we actually have boutique hotels, small hotels that are owned and operated by locals. What will work best is villas.
So that again was him continuing his persecution of Sandals and telling you, well, Tobago don't need no Sandals, let us just do boutique type. But the point is, again, and if we're talking about what fits, the Tobago tourism profile best, if that is what the Chief Secretary wanted at advance, how come after 3 years, where are those boutique hotels? Where are the investment on that boutique type hotels that he was promoting? And then you have this situation, on top of failing to attract any boutique type hotels, the Prime Minister was able to utilize his influence to get Sandals back to the table. So imagine this. The Chief Secretary going to ITB, going to World Travel Market. I'm sure at some point in time they would have crossed paths with Adam of Sandals. And at no point they were able to convince him to come back to the table. However, our Prime Minister, former, was so skilled and so influential to get the Sandals group to reconsider.
Love Tobago so much.
And that's the next point. I want to see the best for Tobago.
Best for Tobago.
Because you will remember when the Prime Minister fought tooth and nail to ensure we got that world-class, first-class international airport, it was to be complemented by some other things to come in this space that would really drive our tourism. One of that being the internationally recognized branded Sandals and beaches property. So right away we were getting 2 first-class type 5-star accommodation properties in Tobago that is internationally recognized. Coupled to that, we were also going to get a marina that would have also, you have the on-land accommodation, you have the marina that would have now deal with the yachties and all that and create a whole ecosystem there. And then on top of that, we are also going to get the dual highway leaving from the airport all the way up to Shervan Road.
Yeah.
That is what was part of this holistic infrastructural development to move Tobago forward by your Tobago Prime Minister. That the Sandals was shut down, they shut down the highway, and they shut down the marina. So all we ended up with is the airport. But in completing the airport, the Prime Minister gave Tobago a parting gift, an opportunity for Sandals to come back to the table. And rather than the Chief Secretary humble himself, recognizing that he was not able to bring them to the table, he's still there trying to puff up himself as some kind of big Swati.
I think we have the clip.
And we now have the change in posture, because before he was telling Tobago no Sandals. Listen to him now.
Yeah. Mr. Director, pull up the clip now of the changed person, please.
For Sandals. That is untrue. Tobagonians rejected the Sandals project because it was undemocratic. It did not make proper economic sense. That MOU that was signed by the current MP for Tobago West, and it did not meet the environmental best practices or standards that we wanted. And so we are very much open to negotiating with Sandals, Four Seasons, any brand name hotel from anywhere to ensure that they meet the standard required by the people of Tobago. And for you to sit in Port of Spain and decide for us, this is what you want. I'm saying to you, there is a Tobago House of Assembly. And in the 5th schedule is tourism. And if it is a matter relative to tourism, it starts and ends with the Tobago House of Assembly. Not your 1% Prime Minister that will let me have.
So again, you see
foolish.
flip-flopping Farley, spewing his nonsense, negative hogwash. And the first point he tried to make is that Tobagonians weren't against Sandals. But you heard in the clip before we played that he was inciting Tobagonians to run Sandals. So which is it, Farley?
Make up your mind.
Which Farley do you really want to? Did Farley that said run Sandals, or this Farley that is now saying, well, we want to lead the discussion? And he's so hypocritical and out of place, because here it is. The Prime Minister is the one who started the conversation by having the conversation and convincing the owners of Sandals to reconsider Tobago. So you didn't start the conversation, but you are saying that any conversation with Sandals must start with you when you weren't even at the table in the first place and don't have the capacity to start it, to even influence it in any meaningful way. And the second thing that I found out is the Chief Secretary there talking about undemocratic. What was undemocratic about that arrangement? At every step of the way, the THA was involved. At every step of the way, consultations were being had.
Correct.
So how could a situation that involved consulting with the people, consulting with stakeholders, be undemocratic? What is undemocratic is his administration coming into power under a party banner by the name of PDP. And then changing, coming out of the party, firstly identifying themselves as independent, then morphing into a party and still holding on to power. That is undemocratic because nobody voted for the TPP. So Farley is a walking contradiction. Because, and I want to say one more thing before I go into one issue in explaining the Sandals arrangement. Because you see, the Chief Secretary is there giving the impression that there should have been some procurement arrangement to get to Sandals. And I would simply ask the Chief Secretary to be careful because there's a matter currently. A matter currently engaging the Integrity Commission regarding EID cut. And that procurement of that operator up at Manta Lodge. And perhaps you should tell Tobagonians how that process went.
What was that process?
That is what you need to explain to Tobagonians. And who were the persons involved in that process.
And who benefited?
And who benefited. Who signed. And who were involved. And then we would see where conflict of interest resides.
Nothing this Chief Secretary says he could draw a solid point of reference. ML, you heard him make reference to something about MOU and all of that nonsense. Where is the MOU that he signed with this Jamaican university?
Correct. So that's why I said he's a walking contradiction.
Always contradicting himself.
Because he took 5 secretaries to Jamaica, spent over 12 days. Said they went to sign an MOU, and up to this day, the Chief Secretary cannot produce that MOU.
And you asked him for it in the house?
We asked him for the MOU, and up to now, the Chief Secretary cannot produce that MOU, where 5 secretaries, including the Chief Secretary,
hundreds of thousands spent,
left Tobago, hundreds of thousands spent. Say they're going to sign an MOU, and up to now, as we speak, there's no MOU that the Chief Secretary can produce as existing.
Minority Leader, what is funny, I remember even when asked, one of the responses was that it was with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Trinidad. So before it comes to Tobago. That time nobody know nothing about what this man
Yes.
talking about.
And again, you're seeing the chief secretary very early and his minions trying to kill the Sandals arrangement before any discussions.
Again.
I don't know. And this is perhaps why the chief secretary and Tobago have not seen any significant investment under this chief secretary, because he's a poor negotiator.
Yeah.
You don't go into a negotiation setting parameters and terms before you even start to have a discussion.
Yeah.
You are already telling Sandals what you will what terms you going to negotiate with when you have not even yet started a conversation.
Correct.
And anybody who goes into negotiation knowing that what you go into a negotiation first and foremost with is the end goal in mind. What do you want to achieve? That is the first thing. And then now you go, you have to have a level of flexibility to ensure that there'll be something you would have to give and something you would have to take to ensure that you get to where you want to
compromise.
And you have to compromise. So I don't understand, as the Prime Minister said, if Barbados was able to compromise and it's working for them, Antigua was able to compromise and it's working for them, St. Vincent was able to compromise and is working for them, why not Tobago? Why do we believe that things have to be cast in stone? And if it is either my way or the highway or no way at all. And while that is happening, our tourism is declining. Every other island, they are seeing 25 to almost 35% increase on arrivals post-COVID.
Yes.
Jamaica, Barbados, even Grenada. That is the record. While Tobago, we are still struggling to get even close to our 2019 numbers. We are still in a deficit when compared to 2019.
ML, and you again you highlighted, and I just want to go back to that statement when this chief secretary spoke about what is undemocratic. To add to undemocratic behavior, what is even more undemocratic, and I think the worst blow to Tobago of all, is waiting until the morning of the autonomy bill sitting, minutes before, and sending his UNC friends information to not support the bill after all the consultations.
Well, the point is, and I am sure every right thinking Tobagonian
that is undemocratic
understands, is that Farley is an agent of the UNC in Tobago. That is plain for anybody to see. And that is why he sent, and the record is clear, that document was sent to the UNC, and they had it even before he sent it to the Prime Minister. And if we want to talk about disrespect, that was the height of disrespect. Because how could you send a document to the opposition for their information and action before you send it to the government, who is actually championing the motion? So Farley knows
that is undemocratic.
What Farley did with that bill was give his UNC friends a get out the card jail, a get out a jail free card. That is what that was. But when you go back to the whole discussion about Sandals, and Martin George, I think, said it best. And Tobagonians have to understand where we are in the whole tourism ecosystem in the Caribbean. All our major competitors have an advantage on us when it comes to quality rooms and rooms that can attract persons who have the money to stay in quality accommodation.
Correct.
Our best accommodation in Tobago at this time, hotel-wise, is the Magdalena. And if we are being very honest with ourselves, the Magdalena is still a very aged property.
Correct.
with the last time any serious upgrade was done, perhaps was 2014, 15 or so, when it was refurbished and then transformed into Magdalena.
Yeah.
Right? On top of that, Tobago has no branded hotel. There's no hotel in this space that you can associate with any global brand and any loyalty program, except perhaps maybe for Comfort Inn, and that is the very lowest of the loyalty programs. So therefore, Tobago has a challenge in attracting people who are serious about moving from island to island with recognized brands. And this is what Sandals does. I stayed at a Sandals, and one of the things I recognize is that there are people who just move from one Sandals hotel to the other, because I asked it when I was in Grenada, and I asked because we were doing the hibachi dinner, and you know, you're interacting with persons. So I was like, how did you find Grenada? And they say, well, I am a Sandals loyalty member, and I visit all the Sandals, so this is but my next destination. And I am going to go they mentioned the next one they're about to go to is St. Vincent.
Wow.
So this is how Sandals by itself,
just on its
own, is a natural
network
puller. And it's not just the tourists, but it's also the other stakeholders, such as the airlines.
Yeah.
They have relationship with the airlines that are even beyond governments. They can get airlines to come in a destination when the government may not be able to.
Correct.
I remember Secretary Stuart Phillips, said to me when they went to JetBlue and they were trying to incentivize JetBlue to come to a destination to be. At that time, JetBlue had flights flying out of Port of Spain, Fort Lauderdale, and New York. And they were trying to encourage them to come to Tobago, give Tobago one of those direct flights. And the JetBlue executives told them, we will come when Sandals come. So you have to understand the kind of power, industrial power that Sandals have. And when Sandals now bring the airlines, this is the real seller, and this is the real Philip head. Because not everybody who's going to now come to the destination is going to come to go to Sandals.
Yeah.
What it provides now is access to Tobago. So you who have your boutique, you who have your Airbnb, you who have your guest house, and those who have that appetite for that kind of accommodation will now have access to get to your destination easier. It would make our airport make sense, and it would also bring commerce to our smaller accommodation property owners. And it also means more people in the space, so our tour operators, more business for them, our taxi drivers, our restaurateurs. And this is how you build a thriving tourism economy, not by fighting development. Is by encouraging and accepting development into your space. And the final point I want to say on this Sandals thing is that just as the government, well, 2 points on this, just as the government utilized its funding to ensure it gave Tobago a fighting chance by spending 1.1 or so, over 126 or so million US, which is about $1.1 billion, to ensure that we have a world-class airport. It is the very same thing the government intends to do with Sandals, which is to utilize from the national pool to help Tobago to become a net contributor and bring us into the game when it comes to tourism, is to make the investment up front. Right, so this talk about Tobago, I saw some people saying, well, they're going to take the money from Tobago to build the Sandals. Just to, you understand?
Misinformation.
Misinformation.
That's all they've professionally.
And some of them is saying, well, why Sandals don't build it? Well, for one, the model the government has always taken, and it's a proven model.
Correct.
The government build properties and then bring in recognized operators. It has been successfully tried and tested with Hilton.
Yes.
It was done in Tobago and it was working fine until they had some issues with who should take care, should do the roof repair, and then Hilton pulled out. It is a major success at Hyatt.
Correct.
And therefore, the chances of this being another success, because
Very
it is
high.
a template that has been tried and tested, and it works out better for us.
Yeah.
Because here it is prime and land owned by the state. So why would you want to give that away to somebody to come and spend their money and not own it?
And then
Doesn't
own
it
land.
make more sense that the government retains and not
ownership.
just the government, but the citizens
People of
the
Tobago.
people of Tobago
Correct.
and Trinidad and Tobago retain ownership,
Correct,
while you have
correct.
somebody with the ability and the capacity who can make it successful come and run it for you, and you give them some level of profit sharing, but you keep the major set of profit.
Stakeholdings.
And of course, like any investment, if there is any risk to be taken or liability, well, of course, you would have to take it on, because just as how there's risk to rewards and just as how you get benefits, if it doesn't
That's the name
work
of
out, that is business.
Yeah, that's business.
And so I don't see why people are trying to put this level of doom,
Fear.
and gloom and fear
in the hearts of Tobago
and Tobagonians as to say this is so bad. And then even if, why are we also saying that, well, we owe, because you heard the Chief Secretary saying, well, we should owe, Tobago is too small for any large-scale development. So let us stick to, let us confine ourselves to boutique. So it means that if people who want to have an all-inclusive experience, they
shouldn't come here.
don't look to Tobago.
Don't cater for them.
Why can't we have both? Why can't the two exist and coexist? We have already done very well with villas. And of course, that is something that is already there. But what we are lacking is one, a properly branded
hotel.
recognized hotel with the quality rooms and accommodation and all
First class.
and also the all-inclusive experience. That is something that is very much a go after in the tourism space right now. People want to know, I pay up front, pay and done. And I just come and get my experience.
Yep.
I pay forward.
5 or
and
6
even
star.
those same people who pay forward still go out. I was at Grenada and they were going out and enjoying the island and coming back.
Yeah.
So it is a misconception when you are being sold that all people do is come and stay at the resort. Not true.
ML, even though all people have to do is go on Facebook and look at the other islands,
But look at the
it
St.
is
Vincent
benefiting
story.
everybody else.
Even if we were guessing before as to how influential Sandals is,
Yes.
we just have the example of St. Vincent, where St. Vincent didn't even have a direct flight to New York and those places. And with Sandals, all of a sudden these airlines just came and showed up.
The airport
and now
packed.
not just Sandals properties being filled, but the other
Everybody
properties are being filled.
Everybody else. And Sandals is now exploring the option of adding another in St. Vincent and a third or fourth in Barbados.
And then for the environmentally sensitive persons, I am sure you appreciate that Sandals is a globally recognized brand that protects its image with its everything.
Correct.
And it in fact and applies all the highest level of environmental standards to ensure that their brand is not brought into disrepute. And therefore, if they could maintain that level of quality assurance in Antigua, in Barbados, in Grenada, St. Vincent, Curacao, etc., wherever they are, all of them beachfront property. What makes Tobago so different and so unique?
Exactly. Let the naysayers answer that. Let the naysayers answer that question.
So if we want to be serious about tourism, and if we want to put that magnificent airport into proper use,
work it.
I would encourage the Chief Secretary to stop his nonsense.
Correct.
Stop playing force right. Because if you had the ability to bring players into the space, you would have done it already.
Correct.
Your time is up and you have failed. There's an opportunity for all of us to come together, because you said it conveniently that when Tobago comes together using your UNC friends slogan,
correct,
Tobago wins.
Tobago wins.
Let us come together. Let us take away personality and egos, and do what is best for Tobago and ensure we have sober conversations, sober negotiations. Both Trinidad and Tobago, central government and THA, sitting together. Not like what you did with the autonomy bill, where you took off on your own and made decisions, but all of us sitting together and ensuring that we get the best deal for Tobago and Trinidad and Tobago.
Exactly. That is well said, well put, Minority Leader. I mean, I don't know where this time goes on a Tuesday night. It's the fastest we see time roll down.
Yes.
But ML, there are some issues as well that we wouldn't have time to prosecute tonight. But definitely, I think next week, Tuesday, we have to continue in the same vein.
As we close up, I just want to, and some things you try to ignore. And I see, as one person put it, the TPP looking for a zipline kind of campaign. So they've now labeled themselves as blue crabs, and trying to play on a statement that was made innocently without malice. And so I went to a wake last night, and a relative of mine was telling me, pulled me on the side, so why your Prime Minister calling we crab? I said, I said, did you listen to the statement? No.
That's it.
So I pulled up the statement, and I pulled up back the speech of the Prime Minister. And when the person heard it, they said, I saw it go. I said, I just saw it go. So I said, see that nonsense that they're trying to put out there? Don't even take
that bait.
Because they recognize, as the poll have shown, that they have failed Tobago. So they don't have any achievement to go on. They can't say they build anything of any significance. The one road that they tried to build has been marred in corruption, in breach of law, and all the other negatives. So they have absolutely nothing to come to you Tobagonians with, except to try to pull down another Tobagonian. Because for all that is said, no other Prime Minister would have delivered to Tobago as much as Dr. Keith Christopher Rowe
legacy
would have delivered to the people of Tobago. And
legacy.
That is, love is not just what a man says, but it's more what a man does. And if you're to judge Farley and you're to judge the former Prime Minister, Dr. Keith Rowley, in terms of actions, not words, then it is comparing chalk and cheese. Because what Dr. Rowley would have delivered by way of airport, hospital, police station, fire station, have water infrastructure, ferries, and the likes. Farley is nowhere to be found. Miles, leaps and bounds.
Disrespectful, man. Disrespectful.
What has Farley delivered? What has Farley
besides disrespect?
After 4 years, $10 billion. I leave this final question for you Tobagonians. After 4 years, $10 billion. Think about it. $10 billion.
Billion.
What has Farley delivered to make your life better?
10 billion. $10 billion.
Give me
folks.
10 things that Farley has delivered after $10 billion,
$10
4
billion.
years, to make your life better.
And as we answering that, I want to remind us who they are agents of. Let us not forget that. So we can ask ourselves the question, if the 10 billion wasn't spent in Tobago,
Show me your friends and I'll tell you who you are.
if it wasn't spent here, we have not benefited. Who really benefit from that $10 billion? And the answer is clear.
Show me your friends and I'll tell you who you are.
Folks, thank you for being with us. It's always sad that we have to leave on this note. But tonight we had to address a number of these issues. Next week, Tuesday, we return to continue in this same vein, addressing...
Next week, Tuesday is a holiday.
Next week, Tuesday is a holiday. My apologies. The following Tuesday.
But actually, next week, Tuesday is...
No,
what
Monday
date?
is Eid.
So, on next week, Tuesday...
Eid and Shouter Baptist.
Yeah.
Back to back.
Yeah. Yeah, next week, Tuesday is the third, the fourth. Mm-hmm. Right, yeah.
So, folks, well, holiday, we're not going to be here.
Yeah.
But we're going to still be putting information out.
Yes.
Stay tuned to the Minority Leaders page, the Office of the Minority Leader, the Minority Council. Let me remind you, this Thursday, sitting of the Assembly, the Minority Leader and Councillor go in again to continue representing all of Tobago, to hold this administration to account for the $10 billion that has been spent, but nothing seen in Tobago. Folks, thank you for staying with us. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned. Keep following. I'm Marlon David saying good night and God bless.
The views and opinions expressed on the following program are those of the commentators, guest, and the host. They do not explicitly or necessarily reflect nor represent the policy or views held by Tobago Updates or this network. Tobago Updates or this network cannot be held accountable for all or any views expressed during this program.